I'm gonna make a lemony eggplant caponata because I wanted to make something that was soft, because I've been on a soft food diet for 2.5 years after surgery on my jaw, and it's still really flavorful food. It's just not crunchy. And I wanted to be able to use stuff from the garden because it drives me crazy when I can't take advantage of the garden while it's in season. And it's summertime right now, so eggplant is really soft. Tomatoes cook down to be really soft. The pepper I'm gonna cut up really, really tiny. That's why I have the snack size peppers, because their walls are a lot thinner. And then I'm gonna use a shallot from the garden, but an onion would be just fine. I just like shallots better. Before I can tell you exactly how much of everything you'll need, I need to know how much eggplant I have, because that would be the limiting factor. Normally I would cut up the eggplant last, because eggplant can oxidize, which means it turns brown when it's exposed to the air. But since I need to know how much I have, I'm starting with it. I'm going to take a peeler and take the skin off, because I think the skin would be too tough to eat on a soft food diet. That's me personally. And I think the eggplant will cook down to mush better. Well, it's going to cook down to mush, but it's going to be more mushy without its skin. I'm looking to have 2 cups of eggplant. First, I'm going to cut it in half. So there's a flat side. And then I'm going to cut it into a 1/4 to 1/2 inch thickness strips, so that when they get turned into squares, there'll be a 1/4 to 1/2 inch thickness in the squares. An eggplant caponata is, it's an Italian relish. It's supposed to be sweet and sour. And I don't really get the sweet and sour. The sour comes from the lemon. But I think of that more as tart. And there's going to be lemon and a little bit of honey, so the honey will provide the sweetness. There's also capers and olives and oregano. The olives I'm not as confident about on a soft food diet, so I'm going to cut them up to the tiniest pieces known to man and then put them on the side. And that way, if I ever feel like it's not going to work for me, I just won't include them. All right, let's see what we're working with. Because it's a canning recipe, the recipe is written for 6 cups of eggplant, which is a lot. Unless you have a big family and your whole family's gonna eat it. But this is just me. All right, we have 1 cup. And we'll definitely have 2. Okay, 2 cups of eggplant. I guessed right. Yay for me. Because it's a canning recipe and it goes by weight, we'll need 2/3 of a pound of tomatoes, which is about 11 ounces, which is 4 to 5 small to medium tomatoes. And I have 12 ounces here. And I'm just going to use all that, because we're going to cut out the center of the tomato, and 12 ounces will be just fine. I'm doing the tomatoes next because the acid from the tomatoes will help keep the eggplant from turning brown. And then when I'm taking time to cut up the shallot and the peppers, which will take more time, the eggplant browning will be affected by the acid in the tomatoes. Or if you want, you can get, I think it's a 1/4 cup of lemon juice and 4 cups of water, and put the eggplant in that. And that is a solution that I use when I make applesauce, and it helps keep everything from turning brown. The tomato pieces I'm going to cut to be about the same size. Which is 1/2 to 1/4 of an inch. And the tomatoes are really going to cook down into, you won't have to worry about their size once they cook down. And if you're worried about the size of the tomatoes, you can just put them in a food processor and blend them up. This isn't a fast recipe. The tomato eggplant mixture needs to cook down and thicken, which can take up to an hour. It never takes that long when I do it. When I do it, it takes 40 minutes tops. But that's still a lot of time. And if you don't like eggplant, which I understand, eggplant wasn't my favorite summer vegetable either, you could use a zucchini or a yellow squash that you've done the same thing, taken the skin off, and where you've peeled it and then cut it into small pieces. And if tomatoes are too acidic for you, yellow tomatoes are supposed to be less acidic than the other colors. But if you look at how thin the walls are of this pepper compared with like a big red bell pepper, it'll be easier to cut this into small pieces. And the pepper pieces, because of the skin, I'm going to cut them into the smallest pieces that I can, which is hopefully like 1 millimeter. That's what I always aim for, and then it always ends up being bigger than I think it will be. For the bell pepper, you need 1/3 of a regular sized bell pepper, and I thought that a kind of a large mini pepper and a small mini pepper was about equivalent to that. And I never feel like the food processor can get the pieces small enough. Or it's not that they're not small enough, they're not uniform enough. Some pieces end up being bigger, some pieces end up being smaller. So I think it's easier to chop it by hand. I'm going to do the same thing with the shallot. For the onion, we'll need 1/3 of a cup. For the onion, I'm going to also cut things up into really small pieces, like 1 millimeter to 1/4 of an inch. Add it into the pan with the tomatoes, eggplant, and peppers. We need oregano. We need a little more than 1/8 of a teaspoon. So if you take 1/4 of a teaspoon and fill it up almost halfway, that should be about enough. It's between 1/8 and 1/4 of a teaspoon. We need 2/3 of a teaspoon garlic powder, 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt, and 1/3 of a teaspoon of pepper. You'll start cooking everything on high. Once it boils, turn it down to a simmer and let it cook the rest of the 40 minutes to an hour together. It started boiling pretty quickly, so I'm going to turn it down to a simmer, which is like 2 on my stove. You want to turn the temperature down until it boils gently. You can serve it hot or cold. If you want, you can serve it over pasta, which is probably how I'm going to eat it tonight. Or if you want to serve it cold, I know other people in the house are gonna have it over a chicken breast as like a chutney. Next, we're gonna need olives. It recommends green olives, but that doesn't sound good to me. Kalamata olives sound better. Honey, my honey bear's standing on his head. And capers. We're also gonna need lemon juice and lemon zest. It's 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of capers. We need 1/6 of a cup of olives. That's just 1/3 cup, filled up halfway. And I'm just gonna put them on the cutting board and then run the knife over them as many times as I possibly can. First I'll cut them in half. Try and give myself a fighting chance. And if, when you're done cooking something, if the pieces look too big, since I'm gonna put this over pasta anyway, I could always just put it in a food processor and then use it as a sauce. It's still gonna be just as flavorful, and it would still be acting as a sauce for the pasta. I'm gonna serve the olives off on the side. I think I got the pieces small enough, but just in case, just the abundance of caution, I'm just gonna put them to a dish, in a dish to the side. It's been cooking for 20 minutes and it's thickened quite a lot. The eggplant pieces look a little bit big to me, so I might take a potato masher and just mash those pieces down. I know they're soft, I know they'll be really easy to chew. I'm gonna add in the capers. A 1/6 of a cup of lemon juice. And 2 teaspoons of honey. If you don't like lemon juice, you could use red wine vinegar instead. And 1 teaspoon lemon zest. You want to keep cooking it for up to 10 minutes until all of the lemon juice has been absorbed. It's been 8 minutes, there's no more juice. And now if you want to make some pasta and serve it over that, or let it cool off in the fridge and eat it the next day, the flavors are supposed to be even better the next day.